everyone, it's Miss Kristin from Town Hall, and today we're going to make this super cute parrot for our ArtVentures program. So if you had the opportunity to sign up and request a supply kit, you have pretty much everything that you need in front of you. If you did not get a supply kit, some things that you're gonna need are cardboard, and I would recommend that you use something thin, kind of like a fruit snacks box, maybe a granola bar box, cereal box, something like that. You're gonna need a pen or a pencil. You can also use a marker or a crayon. You'll need scissors. You'll need glue. Today I'm gonna be using a hot glue gun, but squeezable glue will work just as well. If you have a ruler, and then we also need to have colored paper, so I'm using construction paper. The colors that I'm using are going to be blue, yellow, green, and red. And then you will also need a googly eye if you have one. If not, you can use a marker to draw one on. And then the colors for paint that I'll be using are red and yellow. Now, once you see how we're doing this craft, you can totally change it to different colors if you want, but those are the colors that I will be using today. Then, of course, you're gonna need a paintbrush. I always like to put my paint on a plate. So I have my red and my yellow poured out. I have I have a paintbrush for each color, but if you only have one, or if you only want to use one, make sure you get like a cup of water so you can rinse your paintbrush, and then of course paper towels so you can dry your paintbrush off in between use. Okay, so before we get started, just remember that anytime you're gonna do arts and crafts, you always wanna get permission from an adult, right? So you don't wanna be crafting without anybody knowing about it. Then you need to get your art supplies. Remember, I just went over all of the supplies that you're gonna be using today. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have your table covered. As you can see, my table covering has a whole bunch of paint already on it. So make sure you have something on the table that can get messy. And then you need to make sure that you have your imagination, because anytime you create something, you always want to use your imagination. And then you also will probably want to wear a paint apron if you have it, or maybe like an old t-shirt or something that can get messy. As you can see here, I already have paint on my hands, and this is my art shirt, so I already have paint spilled on it. And see, it's totally fine because I have my messy clothes on. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So like I said, we're gonna be making a parrot today, and we're making it out of cardboard. So I like cardboard because you always have it at your house. You might not have paper, or you might not have canvases. Sorry, I couldn't even think what I'm trying to say. So this works perfect as a canvas. So I just used a cake mix box, actually is what I used. And for those of you that did not get the supply kit, but you want to try this at home, we have a parrot template on our Groveport Town Hall website. This is what it looks like once you cut it out. So there's the body shape for the bird, and then here's the beak. So just make sure if you're tracing it on your own at home, make sure that when you trace it, you're tracing them both this direction. So that way when you assemble it, the beak goes here, and the beak doesn't go back here where the feathers are. See how that is? Beak doesn't go there, it goes here. So make sure you trace them in this direction. So step one, if you don't have the template already in front of you, or the cardboard already in front of you, go ahead and trace your template, and then you want to use your scissors to cut it out. So I already have that step completed, so here's my cardboard template, and I mentioned that I'm going to be using the colors red and yellow. So first I'm going to go ahead and paint my parrot red. So if you are following along at home, go ahead and get your paintbrush and start painting the body of your parrot. Now I am using acrylic paint, but you could use tempera paint if that's what you have at your house. And because this cardboard is thin, I want you to understand that it's gonna kind of curl up a little bit when it's wet, and that's fine. So you are gonna have to let it kind of dry for a few minutes before we can move on to the next step. Now I have the fans on in the room here with me. You could do that. If you want to use a hairdryer, you could do that, but it really doesn't take that long for it to dry since it's so thin. But here's my coat of paint, and as you can see how it's not flat anymore, it's starting to curl. And that's fine, like I said, you're just gonna need to give it a chance to dry. Look, it's getting even higher. Can you see that on the camera? It's not laying flat. Eventually it'll lay flat after it starts to dry a little bit. So if you're watching this and you wanna do it along with me, go ahead and hit pause. And then what we can do is we can move on to the beak. So the beak is the next section. Here it is, and I am choosing to paint it yellow. If you want to use orange or a different color, remember it's entirely up to you. This is your art project. That's why I like to say use your imagination and be creative. All right, and don't be afraid to put the paint on thick. Now this, and it's up to you, but I just like to have like my paint kind of dark. So if you look at this with the yellow, see how you can kind of see the cardboard color through it? So what you might want to do, if you're crazy like me, set it aside to dry. Once it's dry, put another coat on. So that way it'll be darker and you can't really see the cardboard coming through. I would say, I guess that's probably the worst part about painting with cardboard, is that you can see a little bit of the cardboard coming through. But you can always do a second coat. You could do a third coat if you want, okay? You could even start with a yellow coat and then top it off with an orange coat. Okay, so now we are going to pretend, fast forward, and oh gosh, now I'm ready. It's dry. So see how it went back to being flat once it's dry? Now if you have the supply kit that you picked up from us here at Town Hall, there's already gonna be, and you can kind of tell if you look close, slits made in your parrot, okay? So the purpose of those slits, it's because that's what we're gonna put the feathers through. So I've got my parrot body, I've got my parrot beak, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and use my hot glue gun. And like I said, if you don't have one, you can just use squeeze glue and that works just as well. So go ahead and place it wherever you want the beak to lay. And go ahead and lay it on, oh, whoops, then go ahead and lay it on there and it can dry. I usually tell you guys not to use too much glue because it goes a long way, but clearly I was a little trigger happy with the hot glue gun. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry. Now the next step, and you can skip to this part with me if you want, is the googly eye. So if you have one in the kit, go ahead and grab that next. And again, take whichever kind of glue you're using, squeeze just a little, don't do what I did the first time. Squeeze a little dot, put your googly eye on there. There we go, and now I'm gonna set that off to dry. So while that's drying, we can move on to making the feathers. And of course, I did not stay in the lines when I was painting, so I've got like a huge mess in front of me. So I'm gonna kind of dry that up a little so I don't have it all down my arms. And next I'm gonna go ahead and get the construction paper. So again, if you don't have the same colors or if you don't wanna use the same colors I'm using, you don't have to, but remember I'm using blue and yellow and green and red. So I am stacking them all together, okay? And I'm taking a ruler, okay? It's probably gonna be best if you can use a ruler just because that'll give you a nice straight line. It'll also give you the right width of the paper. So I'm gonna take the ruler and I'm gonna put it all the way to the far edge, and I'm gonna take my pen and draw a line because that's how thick we want the feathers to be. So put your ruler down, grab a pen, pencil, marker, crayon, whatever you have. Okay, so now you can see the dark line, hopefully, right? And so now I'm just gonna, again, hold all the pieces of paper together. I'm gonna take my scissors, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut all those strips off together. And again, they're gonna come off at the exact same time. And I know you're probably thinking, whoa, those are gonna be some super long feathers, right? Doesn't that look too long? I'll show you the trick when we get to that step. Now, what you wanna do is hold your strips out like this and take your scissors, because what we're gonna kind of do is make the feathers look kind of curved. So at the bottom corner of the paper, take your scissors and then just kind of make a little bit of a curve cut. And then you're gonna come to this side and you're gonna do the exact same thing. You're gonna start at the bottom corner and cut to just a half little curve. So kind of like a half moon shape, I guess you could say. All right. And so now they're no longer perfectly straight. See that? All right, and notice how this is more curved and that's not. So art doesn't have to be perfect, remember? All right, so now we're gonna go back to the same construction paper. This time you're gonna take the ruler. You're gonna go to the top or the bottom with your ruler and you're gonna trace a line going the opposite direction as we did the first time, because now we're gonna cut the shorter paper. So again, take your pen, pencil, marker, crayon, whatever it is that you have. Use the ruler to draw your line. Do you see the line on there? And then you're going to go ahead and get your scissors and we're going to cut across the line. And again, we're keeping all the colors together, so we're just cutting them all off at the same time. And I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside. Now, same thing as before. Take your scissors, go to the bottom corner, and kind of just make a curved little half circle cut or a triangle like I did. And then you're gonna wanna repeat for the other side. So you see how instead of it being straight, it's kind of curved, okay? That was super easy, right? All right, next step. Why don't we go ahead and do the shorter feathers first. So, taking the shorter feathers, all you have to do is bend all of them in half. See? Easy peasy. And then, like I said, if you got the template from us here at Town Hall, you're gonna have 2 slits on the parrot. So we're gonna put the short strips for the feathers into the top slit. And assuming that I cut it the right width, it should go through super easy for you. If not, you may need to make the slit a little bit wider, and you can either do that on your own, or you could probably ask mom or dad or someone there to help you out. Right, and then what you do is at the back, you fold it over in the back, okay? This is what it looks like in the front. We can trim up the back in a little bit, okay? And then what you can do later is I'll show you, we can kind of spread them out a little so you can see all of the colors. All right, then what you're gonna need to do is get the next stack of your feathers, so the longer strip. And you don't have to do it this way, but I'm gonna go ahead and when I put it through the slit in my bird, I'm gonna keep the same color showing, okay? And I'm also gonna try to keep it so the corners match up, okay? So instead of doing it like this, I'm gonna do it like this, so they're facing the same direction. So again, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the bottom slit that is on the parrot if you got the kit from us. If not, you're gonna need to use scissors. Mom or dad could probably use a box cutter if they have that available. The easiest thing you have to make the slit, so this will feed through. And same thing, you feed it through and then just fold it tightly together like so. Okay, now what you're gonna wanna do is if you have too much left in the back, you can go ahead and kind of trim it up a little bit. So I'm gonna do that with this, the shorter feathers. And then I'm going to, I guess I should have mentioned this, but I'm gonna get some tape. You don't have to do this, but I'm gonna get a piece of tape just to kind of hold those feathers down. And you can use whatever kind of tape you want. I guess you could really even use glue if you want to, but I'm going to use tape to, like I said, hold those down just so they're not blowing around in the fan up here with me. Okay, so I got some yellow paint for my beak on my bird. All right, so you're seeing the end product here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my feathers and you can just kind of spread them out, okay? So that way you can see all of the colors that are on here. That way you're not just seeing blue and whatnot. And you can kind of bend them a little too if they're kind of moving on you. And you can also make your slit a little bit wider if you need to do that or if you want to do that. And there you go. Now you have a parrot. You can go ahead and hang this somewhere. You could probably put some ribbon or some yarn if you have that. Kind of tape it to the back if you want to hang it up. You could put it on your refrigerator, put it in your room. You could give it to a neighbor or a friend. That's a pretty cute parrot made out of cardboard. Now, if you're just checking this out, does that look like cardboard to you? I wouldn't have guessed it either. Now, if you look at it from the back, okay, yeah, that was cake. From the front, adorable parrot. So, thanks for checking out the video. I hope you had fun, and tune in Monday. We'll have another art venture activity planned. So every Monday and Wednesday, we're gonna have art ventures planned where you can tune in and craft along with me, or you can try it anytime on your own later. Thanks and have a great weekend. Bye.